All right. Super. Well, thank you to Jack, Jeff, Don, and Gary for serving on the panel. So I just want to start with some general questions. And Jack, we'll start with you. You know, being in the manufacturing business, maybe if you can take us, just a minute, tell everyone sort of about Contec, what they do, but then tell us how AI is sort of reshaping your business and maybe some of the significant changes that you've observed so far.
So Contec manufactures wipes, mops, and pre-saturated wipes for critical cleaning environments like the pharmaceutical industry, automotive, surface prep for paint, semiconductor, compounding pharmacies, and then general cleaning. And we see more and more, I'll call them self-thinking cleaning machines that are being developed for more for big applications rather than our niches, but we know that it's going to be coming to our industry at some point. So we've gone out and met with several companies that make automated cleaning machines, talk about how we might be able to integrate our textile solutions into their products. So that's one thing we're looking at. We don't think that's going to happen in these niche environments that we're in for the next 5 to 10 years, but we do want to learn what is going on in general. And then in terms of how we are integrating or how we see AI affecting our company, it pretty much follows the graph that John put up on the board. Marketing and our marketing people use this a lot because our market is, they're so niche based that for them to learn relevant things to say about the industry and how our products relate to those industries, it takes a while. So this really speeds up our marketing team's ability to write creative and interesting literature for our end users, and then they can run it by our technical services group and say, is this accurate, is it close? So it really speeds up their productivity when it comes to learning about the different applications that our products are involved with. And it also helps our engineers and our R&D people when they're developing new products. They go out and they search for different processes. And when you asked if we used AI, I think I use AI every day because I do a search and first thing it brings up is the AI result. So that's how I use it, and that's how a lot of our people use it. But all in all, I think it's really accelerating the ability of our people to learn about our niche markets and how our products relate to those.
Great, thank you. So Don, I know you're at USC Upstate, you were in industry, you were sort of an executive in residence. So as you think about, education, what strategies are you using at USC Upstate to really sort of upskill workforce and make sure people are ready to keep pace with AI advancements in the workforce?
Well, if you take a look at AI and where is it useful, you take a look, you mentioned data. For AI to be useful, you have to have a good data set and a known outcome that you want to have. And that's why something like ChatGPT, when you write in there the question, you know what you want, and it uses basically all the data on the internet to generate your answer on ChatGPT. So when we take a look at all the things that we educate on at USC Upstate, everything that we have, every program that we have, does involve data at some form. And so as for example, we are getting ready to launch this coming fall, our new industrial engineering program, and we will have AI for engineers as a course in that program. So AI is becoming part of everything that we do at the university.
Great. Gary, you're in financial services. We all get the text from our bank around fraud, but tell us, because I think financial services is using AI in a much greater way than just getting those texts. So tell us, how is the bank using AI, and who's using AI at the bank?
Sure. We or the, you know, when I was asked to participate today, I recalled a conversation, actually a meeting, an information session that I was a part of several months ago from our technology teams with regards to AI and what we're doing. You know, earlier you asked the question, who uses AI once a month, every week, every day? And I think I said the every week. The fact of the matter is, it's fed to me every day, you know, after I thought about that. Specifically, and I'll speak largely to PNC Bank, but I suspect that our colleagues or competitors around the industry are doing the same thing. There's 4 areas where banking particularly is, or subsets that banking is using AI. One is in sales and marketing. You mentioned sales and marketing. And an example of that would be, you know, historically when a banker would go see a prospect, you would spend the first hour or the first meeting asking a litany of questions about the business. Today, given AI, if I go to a call and are asking many of those questions, it means that I haven't done my homework, because the first call should really feel like the second or third call, based on the data that we have at our fingertips from a sales and marketing perspective. Secondly, process and procedure. What we're doing behind the scenes, you know, big banks are notorious for having lots of process, lots of procedure. Onboarding can sometimes not be enjoyable, but as we integrate AI into that process and procedure, you know, many of you are familiar with KYC, AML, et cetera. As we integrate AI into those processes, everybody's life is getting easier and certainly more efficient. The next area is underwriting and risk. You know, we feed financials into generally manually entered into a matrix to help us understand initial scoring when we go to underwrite a particular opportunity. The use of AI is improving that process and actually making it tons more accurate than it was historically. Lastly, we're spending a lot of time at PNC on the ethical use of AI, i.e. if you've got college students or high school students, ChatGPT is a thing. And my wife and I are just scratching our heads saying, this is just not fair. But the fact of the matter is, there's a ton of ethical unknowns when it comes to the use of AI. It's certainly in our business where everything we do is generally confidential between the parties. So I'd say those are the 4 areas.
You know, PNC, it's a large institution, a large organization. Going back to what we talked about, I talked about a little bit earlier, having a vision, a plan. Is there a clear plan and sort of vision for utilization of AI at PNC?
There is, and as I was doing some refamiliarizing yesterday on the content that I've been privy to within our organization, the first thing I think of note is the shift. I mean, we spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars every year on technology, and you all experience that, be it with our organization or with others every year. But you take all the engineers and the technical teams and kind of have many of those redirected towards the use of AI and how we can fully integrate AI into everything we do at the bank. There is absolutely an intention there. Specifically, where you're all going to see it most is in retail and consumer banking. We're already seeing that with the text about fraudulent charges, et cetera. But also, you know, make no mistake, when you get the credit card offer, when you get the CD offer, and again, I'm referring more to consumer, which I don't do as much of, but there's a lot of intelligence that's gone into that touch. So I would say consumer and retail banking primarily, but we are also seeing it in a process and procedure in commercial banking.
So, Jeff, with the South Carolina Commission on Higher Education, government. So what role do you believe government, or specifically government policy, should play in supporting sort of AI education and workforce development?
Well, everyone here loves the government and is always looking for somebody to knock on the door and say, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. I think, first of all, just some background. When you asked everybody to raise their hand, daily, weekly, monthly, it occurred to me that everyone here is daily. It's just a matter of, is it wittingly or unwittingly? It's everywhere. It is our new reality. And you know, the timeline you put up from narrow to general to advanced, that's just coming. I don't know if you remember Dell Corporation, I think back in 14 or 15, came out with a report that said in 2030, 70% of the jobs that will exist don't exist yet. And that was before AI. So, you know, to expect the government, I think, to try to anticipate those changes and promote them is going to be difficult. What we can do at something like the Commission on Higher Education is help to coordinate efforts. We're part of something called the Southern Regional Education Board, and they have a special committee on AI, and actually our Governor McMaster, is chairing that, and they are going to be addressing some of these issues to try to identify a way forward. But when you're talking about colleges, I mean, it's already here. Let me, real quick, how much is 12 times 11? Okay. If I asked my daughter that, the millennial, she'd roll her eyes and say, I don't need to know that. I've got a phone. If you go back to the 70s, calculators were to math what AI is to content creation. It is fundamentally changing how people approach their work, what the fundamentals are, how they start. I think what we're seeing now is the importance of the ethics of AI, because as much as it's this amazing technology, I still remember garbage in, garbage out. What you program in is what programs out. AI is a function of what people program into it. So the decisions it's making, the way it moves you toward a decision, is a function of somebody who programmed it at the start. There's always a prime mover. And what are the ethics and the values that that prime mover has? I think those are really important questions for us to be asking, certainly on a college campus and in our businesses.
With the Commission for Higher Education, there's a lot of higher education institutes across South Carolina. How do we get alignment on the actual AI curriculum across all these institutions?
Well, I'm the president of the Commission on Higher Education. The way I put it is we have oversight over higher education, but it's small O oversight. It's not capital O oversight. We don't have a system here in South Carolina like you do in North Carolina or even Georgia. Our campuses are all autonomous. They have their own boards. I'm not in a position to say, this is the curriculum you're going to use. What we can do is review programs when they come to us and see what's going into them. But one thing I would, I would point out, campuses are businesses. I mean, they might be not-for-profit, they might be public or private, but just like your businesses, they're looking to stay in business. And they're looking at starting programs that are popular, that there is a market for. So I think you're naturally seeing campuses gravitate toward these kind of questions and how to answer them through the programs that they start. So what we can do at the Commission is look at those programs. We can act as a facilitator, bring campuses together to ask these questions, work with this, like I mentioned, the Southern Regional Education Board, as they're plowing the field in this issue as well.
So Don, just staying on education for a second, thinking about, you have a lot of businesses here in the Upstate. How does USC Upstate align the curriculum with what the businesses need specifically around AI?
I think that's a great question. If you take a look at what businesses need from an AI perspective, the first thing that they need, and probably the first thing that most of us in this room need, is an understanding of AI. You mentioned yourself this morning, you went to Google to learn what is AI. And what USC Upstate can offer companies here is a partnership. We can do certifications, we can do individual classes, we can teach people about what AI is and what AI isn't. And as an example of what it is and what it isn't, this morning, I heard you're going to be a speaker here today, so I put into ChatGPT, give me a new and innovative tagline for PNC Bank. Guess what it spit out? It gave me, within seconds, this wonderful tagline and an entire marketing campaign about how to advertise PNC Bank. The problem is I asked the wrong question, because then what I did is I took that tagline and I researched it, and there was another financial institution already using it. There was a university already using it, and the whole reason is because it used an existing data set. That's what AI does. It uses an existing data set to give you an outcome. Now, what I should have asked it is, what are the 10 questions or 10 items that a customer of PNC Bank wants to know about PNC Bank? What are the 10 things that a person that's choosing a new bank wants in a bank? AI can analyze that, give you that output, and then we could use that to come up with a new tagline for PNC Bank. So that's an example of where marketing can use AI productively to become more efficient, but ultimately we still need people to then interact back. So these are the kind of lessons that all of our team members across all industries need to understand about AI. They need to understand what AI is and what it isn't. Then you can get into higher levels of that and saying, okay, responsible AI. You can take a look at adversarial AI. Where is AI threatening our business? For example, our cybersecurity program at USC Upstate, one of the best in the region, that program is taking a look at AI and where do we protect our businesses. So, by the way, PNC Bank has a great tagline. I'm not asking you to change it.
It's an interesting one.
But I think the answer to your ultimate question is we want to partner. We're looking at industry. One of the reasons we have an event like this today and support an event like this today is to listen to industry. In prior years, industry feedback told us this region needs engineering, and that's one of the reasons we're going after that. But there are other things that we're continuing to add in our programs, and obviously cybersecurity is one of those that was added, but other programs are things that we can add. But we can partner on a much more personal level. We can partner and provide basically certifications and individual classes for all people in all areas and all industries.
Hey, John, if I could, just piggybacking on that, you mentioned the importance of K-12 education. In a previous life, I was head of research for the New York State School Boards Association, so I've thought about this a lot in the context of AI. It's not just about learning AI, it's applying it. Imagine K-12 is completely different. Imagine there are no grades. Imagine it is truly student-based. Every student is going through based on their capacity, their strengths. It's grouped more for social purposes than for academic. Some students may get through sooner and proceed. Some may take some more time, but it is completely based on the student. That is the potential that I see AI offering that could be truly dramatic in education.
Thank you, Jeff. So, Jack, I want to come back over to you. Earlier you shared in your organization, sales, marketing, you have certain parts of your organization that are using AI. And you talked about how you're even using it yourself. So it sounds like you have parts of the organization that are using AI, parts that are not. So at Contec, how will you sort of over the next few years, get it to where the whole organization is using AI? That's the first question I have for you. And then the second is, how do you see in the future AI actually specifically affecting the manufacturing process?
So I think AI is going to come in whether we like it or not. I mean, and especially our younger people who are big on technology use are using it more frequently to do their jobs as opposed to somebody like me who's seeing it come up as a result of Google searches. So I think, and I'm old, so it's hard for me to understand exactly where it'll be in our organization, but I know our engineers and are going to be using it to design processes. And I don't know, and maybe you guys can give me your ideas on what part of the organization will lead the implementation of AI into manufacturing companies. Certainly our team learns a lot that way, and as I said, I think it's great in accelerating the learning of niche manufacturing, niche marketing, and it's helped our team that way. One example which Don was pointing out is the limitations of AI. I like to be involved in new products and new markets. A few years ago, we launched disposable microfiber mops to replace laundered mops in hospitals. And so I wrote most of the literature for that. And a couple of months ago, I did a search through Google to find out what are the benefits of using disposable microfiber over laundered microfiber. And the results came back, and I'm like, wow, this sounds really good. And then I realized it was my own words coming back because I'm the only one that's ever written anything that's on the internet about that. So just kind of warned me about some of the shortfalls of AI. But anyway, I wish I knew more about how that's going to happen, but it is happening, I know.
Well, I think what you said is I think what a lot of manufacturing companies see, which is engineers using it around sort of re-engineering of processes,
Right.
optimization, and then also around sort of new product development as well. But I think what you said also is really important in a niche business, and Don talked about it, AI uses data and what is the inputs are to get to the outcome. And if the inputs are limited, then you're limited on sort of how you can use it as well.
Right. And I think going back to your presentation, AI is going to enable our people to spend more of that time thinking, not that 40%. We want to get up to 70% thinking as opposed to 65% or 60% doing admin or processing tasks. So that really, for us being an innovation company, that's critical.
Gary, at the bank, you're in a business to consumer business, a B2C business. So how is the bank, balancing this huge investment in AI and integrating AI into sort of the operating model with also maintaining that sort of human-centered touch and roles within the organization?
It's an interesting question, and I'll start with this. As far as a workforce goes, when I was in school, many of you were in school, people got out of college and were going to be bankers. Today, there's not a lot of bankers coming out of college. Somebody's not coming out of college to be a banker. There's econ majors, finance majors, business majors, accounting majors, etc. And so we as an organization have had to get more and more and more creative about how to attract those majors, those graduates into banking. What can banking mean to them? And so through our internships programs in college and our associates programs out of college, that is really bridged the gap to bring folks into the banking sector. I say that to say this. Many of those, like you've both spoken about, are much more exposed to AI than ever before. They expect it. And so through their expertise, they're integrating AI into their day-to-day processes, whereas someone like myself, It's given to me. It's fed to me. So I would tell you that there are certain focuses within our organization. I mentioned those earlier, kind of the segments, and then specifically around retail and consumer banking. But the key is with workforce. I mean, you've got thousands of folks that are dedicated to this every day in our organization, but identifying those new graduates that can add to that talent pool is key. And so that's really where we're having to be smarter about recruiting and whatnot. And it's these programs that are giving us that.
So Jeff, I want to come back to you a little bit, representing sort of South Carolina, as you think about higher education.
Well, that's a heavy responsibility right there.
So
We have
how
two senators.
How can, if you think about how can, you have a lot of businesses here. So how can South Carolina's industries collaborate better with higher education, with K-12 education, to ensure that the talent pipeline that is being built is going to really not just meet, but exceed the demands of an AI-driven economy?
Yep, great question. We have a leg up here in South Carolina. Act 67 passed a couple of years ago, and it brought together our workforce development stakeholders into something called the Coordinating Council for Workforce Development, on which serves industry, higher education, government officials, to make sure that pipeline that you talked about is seamless. That's at the statewide level. I think, and before I worked at CHE, I was president of the Independent Colleges Association. And something that was very important to me was making sure that those campuses developed lines of communication locally with their chambers of commerce, for example. I think it's absolutely essential that local relationships be developed so that businesses know who they can go to in terms of local higher education institutions to find the upskilling they need. Frankly, I think it's hard to do that on a statewide level. What we can do at the statewide level is encourage those local relationships to make sure you all know that if I need some particular upskilling, I can go to a higher ed institution, maybe just sign a contract, get that particular skill imparted, get a certificate, and then move on. I think that's great for the institution, which is always looking to enroll more students, frankly. And it's great for the employee who gets those additional skills, and it's great for the business because that individual is far more likely to retain at your business if they have that relationship that's resulted in them having greater skills.
Well, John, if I could add to that just real quick. There's a lot of talented, kind of full-time economic development folks in the room. But one of the things I've noticed through initiatives at the Upstate Alliance, like Move Upstate, or some others, is that, the first thing businesses are asking when they're looking at the Upstate is the workforce, the pool of talent. Where are they coming from? So what these guys are doing is so critical. Because if we don't have the talent, we can't bring those businesses here. And as we look for high-tech, biotech, fintech, and others, industries to come to this area, we've got to have the workforce to support that. And so there's a lot of initiatives in place to do that.
So Gary, I want to stick with you. So we just got a few minutes left. So why don't you think about financial services and banking today? How PNC is using AI today, and then think forward 3 to 5 years. How do you see AI, PNC using AI 3 to 5 years out?
Sure. Today, it's largely through prospect identification and knowledge delivery to us as bankers. I mentioned that earlier, going into prospects, et cetera. where the first thing you'll see, say in 5 years, is a lot more virtual assistants that know more about your financial situation and your financial need than perhaps you may know yourself. Obviously, there are fewer branches per bank. I mean, we just announced a huge expansion this week in a state where we don't have as much bricks and mortar. But generally speaking, we all do banking on our phones. But that interaction is going to become more and more and more what we know about the consumer and what your needs are changing drastically. We see it now, but I think that's the first thing we'll notice in the next 5 years, is how we interact. I mean, you may interact with a teller, but largely it'll be a virtual assistant, and that's happening as we speak.
Great. So Don, same question for you, but specifically think about curriculum today in higher education with AI. Think out 3 to 5 years. Where do you see sort of the curriculum in 3 to 5 years based, different than where it is today?
I think if you take a look at it, we've hit on some of those key areas, and that is that every person that's working in the future is going to need to understand AI and how it impacts them. And so those partnerships, those certifications, we talked about some of those are going to be very key. Companies that come and work with an organization like USC Upstate to establish what is it that their team members need. It may be a formal degree, but I think we'll see more and more our certifications and individual courses to educate all team members. And now in addition to that, I think what we'll definitely see is an expansion of USC Upstate's engineering program. I'm putting that plug out there. We're going to continue to expand that because of the need in the Upstate. But from an AI perspective specifically, I think what we're going to see is an expansion of those individual programs, those certification programs, because we're ready to provide that education. And if you've learned anything today about AI, and if you feel still uncertain about AI, that means all of your team members feel that same thing. And we want to be that partner to answer that need, to answer that educational gap. Because as AI continues to develop, the understanding of every team member that works in any business or organization, they need to understand AI. We want to help you understand it.
I'd add to that, too, the notion at a college campus of customer service. Our customers are the students. And where I really see AI expanding on campuses is intervention, identifying at-risk students and what they need. That's always been a very expensive proposition at campuses because it's very labor-intensive. Now you have AI that's going to be able to disaggregate all sorts of data about the students to identify why they're leaving campus, or before that, why they're at risk, and get those intervention services to keep them enrolled. That's good for the student, and it's good for the university or college.
So Jack, we started with you. Man, we're going to end with you. All right. Think about the workforce that you're hiring today, the people that you're hiring today at Contec. Think about AI and 3 to 5 years out. How do you see your hiring strategy changing? What do you believe you'll be hiring for in 3 to 5 years that you're not hiring for today?
So I would say we're a little bit of a throwback organization in that we want people to come for an entire career, and human interaction has to stay front of mind to me for our employees and for all employees. With AI and people spending so much time alone, students spending so much time online, we're an innovation company, and your slides show that innovation is not what AI does. And I think it's important for universities and whatever to make sure that you're still building those human interaction skills among your students, because AI is coming whether we like it or not, and they're all going to be using it, we're all going to be using it, but you have to be able to work together as a team. We do the manufacturing companies in the Upstate all use team-based solutions for changing processes, developing new products. And if everybody's kind of in their own little world, it doesn't work that well. And so our culture has to remain our culture, which is human-centric. And we'll be implementing AI in ways that I don't understand, I'm sure. But that's my biggest concern, is people are going to try and rely on algorithms and AI and things like that to solve their problems. But people are still at the center of your organization. We're a B2B company. People buy from people. That doesn't change. So that, I think, is my biggest concern. I wish I knew more about how AI might impact us, but I want to make sure we keep the human element as front and foremost of our culture.
What a great note to end on. Thank you, Jack, Don, Gary, and Jeff for being part of the panel.